with my kids, I'll often talk about whatever problems that, they're having, whether it be in school or in basketball, or how they look at kind of, working through those. We use the push-ups as, kind of that metaphor of like, well, this is what, like if you look at it this way and you tell yourself you can't do it, you're never going to be able to do it, but if you're willing to endure and work hard, maybe at the end, something good will happen or something great will happen.
Man of Mastery Podcast, episode 77 with Nate Carroll. Hey, thank you guys. I want to start off with a thank you. We truly appreciate you tuning in, whether this is your first time or you've been here for a while. And if you have, you know that the mission here really is to learn, to lead, and to teach in ways that hopefully impact lives in very positive ways. We're all on these journeys of self-mastery in service to others, in seeking the best possible versions of ourselves. And in doing so, this podcast, this community is here to tease out really actionable advice in that direction. And today's guest, Nate Carroll, is certainly a man of action, as we will hear just momentarily. Actions in service. No better example than what we'll hear from Nate today. But just before I go there, one thing or two, I'd like to recognize and thank Clarice Gomez for a recent podcast review and rating out on Apple Podcasts. This is something that any of you, if you haven't already, I would super appreciate. It helps the podcast, the ratings, the search engine, and always appreciate the feedback. Clarice said, "Awesome podcast. Michael, host of the Man of Mastery podcast, highlights all aspects of health, wellness, and more in this can't miss podcast. The host and expert guests offer insightful advice and information that is helpful to anyone who listens." So bold words there, Clarice, super appreciate that. I can only hope that it has a similar impact on others, but that's what we're here for, right? And that's what these guests are here for, looking to bring you super applicable, topical, timely, and inspiring advice from people like Nate Carroll. So Nate is, as I said, certainly a man of action. This guy, he's on an endeavor this year. He's just passed 1 million push-ups and on an endeavor to break the push-up world record for the most in 12 consecutive months or 365 days, a record that has stood for 31 or so years, and it's just north of 1.5 million push-ups. He's averaging 4,111 push-ups a day in his pursuit of that record. But even more importantly, his endeavor, the record, the activities, the publicity, all this really is in service to a foundation called Tunnel to Towers that honors and supports first responders and other fallen heroes from their sacrifice in the line of duty, as we will hear from Nate today. Just a slight bit more background on Nate before we do dive in. So he's a man who lives in Wisconsin. He's served in so many ways in his life, including 20 plus years as a social worker in the Wisconsin prison system, and most importantly, at home as a dad to 3 children, ages 10, 11, and 13. And certainly this is a big, hairy, audacious endeavor, goal for 2021. But Nate loves this stuff. He's run Ironman triathlons. He's done multiple marathons and ultra marathons. And then, he tacks on a few push-ups at the end. He did 3,000 push-ups after the Jailbreak Marathon in 2020. Tacked on 5,000 push-ups to the Glacial Trail 50-kilometer ultra, right? So this guy loves his push-ups. And as I said, he just broke north of 1 million push-ups on his way to that world record of 1,500,230 that has stood for 31 years. He's well on his way. That target is in sight for June of this year, but Nate's breaking it down one day at a time. So let's jump in, hear from Nate on how he attacks a daily routine like that. Just, one more thing, unexpected pleasure in the breadth of topics we covered here that you'll hear from Nate. on almost everything we like to talk about here: mindset, micro goals, dealing with negative self-talk, positive self-talk, staying focused on the mission, focusing on really the inspiration, the service, the gratitude, all that AM, PM ritual, fatherhood. It's all in here. All right, so let's jump in and hear from Nate Carroll. Yeah, okay, we are live. I'm live with Nate Carroll. Very pleased to have him on today. So this audience here at Man of Mastery has really, Nate, rallied around some causes, some philanthropic things, some rallying calls, particularly as it relates to veterans and first responders. That's been a fun thing for us over the last year or two to organize. So that's one reason I'm particularly interested in talking to you and the foundation you're supporting today. But let's set it up. This is pretty amazing, right? Nate Carroll, based in Wisconsin, dad of 3, and pushed through the 1.5 million push-up challenge. So you are aiming for a push-up record, most push-ups in a calendar year, or sorry, a 12-month span.
365 days. Yep.
365 days. Could have done it last year, 366 days. And this has stood for 31 years, is it? Is that right?
So the record was set back in 1989 by Patty Doyle, who is from England, I believe. So it's been a record that's stood for 31 years, I think.
31 years. And just north of 1.5 million push-ups in 365 days.
Correct. Yeah, I just passed 1 million push-ups on the 3rd of this month.
So you are aiming for, is it June timeframe to wrap this up?
June 13th. Yep. So this started on June 14th of last year, and we'll wrap up June 13th this year.
Amazing. So the world record you're shooting for, before we dig into really why, which is the important part of all this, is, will this be a certified world record? Is this a Guinness type of thing?
So I think it will be just a world record. I mean, I plan on sending my videos and the logbook and the people that have verified as many push-ups as I've been able to verify to them. And I guess we'll let them make the decision based upon that.
Okay. Yeah,
it's
maybe
hard
we'll get into
to verify 4,000 push-ups a day. So
it is. I never knew how this stuff worked, but I know some guys here in San Diego that did the 6-person co-ed team burpees in a 24-hour world record a couple of years ago. They crushed the record, but it has been, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, and they're still waiting for the verification process. So I had no idea it was a thing, but it's a thing.
It's a process.
It's a process. All right. So that kind of sets it up. Hopefully that's a little bit of a good teaser for people, Nate, but let's get into what this whole thing is about, and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, really why you're doing what you're doing.
So this whole record is to support the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is a foundation out of New York that provides homes to the families of fallen first responders, homes to Gold Star families, and they build smart homes for our catastrophically injured first responders, police officers, firefighters, and EMT, and our men and women in uniform. So it's a wonderful organization that steps in and provides mortgage-free homes for our nation's heroes and the families that they leave behind. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That is amazing. You're a veteran yourself, Marine veteran, right?
So I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for a few years after high school. Yep.
Yeah, we talked about Camp Pendleton, formative years, boot camp out there, I suppose it was.
Yeah,
you probably did a few push-ups.
And in MCRD, I was there. That's where I did my boot camp. So that's probably where my love of the push-up probably originated from, because you're either smart or strong, and I wasn't very smart. So I found myself doing a lot of push-ups.
Love-hate relationship, I'm sure.
It is.
So 1.5+ million push-ups in a year breaks down to, I think you told me, 4,111 a day on average.
So I have to average 4,111 push-ups every day for 365 days to break that record.
All right. So talk about consistency and habits and dedication. So super powerful why with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and the first responders and men and women in uniform that supports. So great to have that in mind. I see you got the banner up. I know I've seen your YouTube videos. So you obviously keep it right. Yeah. In the forefront as you're doing everything you do. And additionally, and I know one of the ways you get yourself and put yourself out there, I see the guitar, a couple of guitars. I've seen you put some stuff up on YouTube where you dedicate songs as well to first responders. Are these fallen first responders?
So some, so if I'll do tributes to our fallen first responders or fallen military, but I also recognize heroic action. So I just sent a video to a police officer down in Florida who saved the life of an 11-month-old baby boy who was choking. The parents called 911. The officer was there within minutes, performed some back slap CPR, and ultimately saved that baby's life. So I just try to do whatever I can to let police officers, firefighters, and our nation's heroes know that their work is recognized and that it impacts many people, not just the people in their community, but the ripple effect of the work they do impacts us all across this great country. So I'll say a few words and I'll play the Star Spangled Banner on the guitar and send them a little dedication.
Yeah, I've seen some acoustic that you play. I've seen some electric, and yeah, thank you not only for what you're doing, but for taking time to say thank you to some of those heroes. Media loves to pick off the negative stories, so I feel like there's often not enough thanks for all the amazing things that are done in our communities. And sometimes we have bad examples, bad apples, but there's a lot of great people, men and women, doing a lot of great work.
Absolutely. I mean, and like I say, my big thought is like at any moment, these people are willing to put themselves in between us and danger and risk their safety, risk their health for us. And if I can play a song from on the guitar, say thank you, or do a few push-ups in my living room to thank them and to support them, it's a small price to pay considering what they do for each and every one of us every day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Small price to pay to say a little bit of a thank you.
Mhm.
How many shirt sizes have you had to go up with your chest ripping out of there in the push-up challenge?
Yeah, so I've gone up probably one shirt size, but I'm 45, so I'm not ripped anymore. I'm not a little young. I'm not a young buck anymore. So I got a little age behind me. So I don't fill out quite as much as maybe I would like to, but I have certainly put on some muscle mass with that volume of work. So it's a lot, and I had to do a lot of training to build up to that too. That's not just something you wake up one day and say, well, I'm going to try doing this because it's not possible. Well, I mean, it is possible, but I think you have to prepare and train and mentally get yourself ready for that type of commitment.
Yeah, when I love to explore success journeys, and it's never, I'm sure you have good days and hard days, right? So it's always a jagged path, but also just creating consistency, forming habits. They've got to be sustainable, right? So you don't
Absolutely.
go from the couch to 4,000 push-ups a day and necessarily expect your body can handle that for 365 days.
Absolutely not. No, I mean you'll run the risk of injury, obviously, and like you said, I mean, no amount of motivation can sustain this. I mean, you have to be driven. You have to have a purpose greater than yourself and a reason behind what you're doing. Because, I mean, not only physically is it challenging. I mean, mentally it can be pretty taxing at times, especially when you have to balance working full time, being a parent, and all the other things that go into life, and to weave that amount of push-ups into your daily grind. It's sometimes it's mentally fatiguing and not overwhelming, but close to it.
Yeah, no doubt. I've never done anything close to that, but I know I was sharing a little bit with you off air about my son doing his this year 21 burpees a day, and I do it as well behind the camera. But there are
Hmm.
certainly days, whether it's that or whether it's a workout that I'm committed to, that I've either got to get up super early and do it, or I'm doing it at 10, 11, 11:30 at night, right? Getting it done at some point before I go to bed, or this
Absolutely.
podcast, or whatever other commitments we have that are, as you said, purpose driven, maybe in service greater than ourselves. And you just got to find
Mhm.
some way to make it happen.
Absolutely. I mean, in that, like you said, I mean, I have to get up early. I have to hit the floor often, and it's an all-day affair. So but it's doable if you plan for it and you prepare for it, and you're willing to make the commitment and the sacrifice. It's something that's possible. So it's been done once, so I know it can be done again. So I'm hopeful by June 13th that I'll be able to finish it successfully and raise some money for this great foundation because that's really what it's about.
That's what it's about. Yeah. So let's get to the kind of the mindset piece. But before that, maybe let's talk about the routine and the physical a little bit, because whether it's people doing push-ups or whatever the habit they're creating and the consistency, this is a great metaphor. So what how do you break that down? Like, what does a typical day look like for you to attack 4,100 burpees, push-ups? That'd be a lot of burpees.
Now, don't give me burpees; those are pretty hard. So my day starts at 3:30. My alarm goes off, and some days I'll hit snooze and get up at 3:45. Some days I hop out pretty quick, and I'll stretch. I'll eat a little bit, have my coffee, and then typically from about 4 a.m. till 6:15, I'll do 60 sets of anywhere between 30 and 35. I mean, sometimes 25, depending on, I gauge basically how I feel muscle wise. So if I'm feeling a little fatigued, I'll lower the reps down. But I try to do 60 sets before my work, which starts at about 7, and that'll give me about 2,100 push-ups if I do 35 per set. And so from there, I work in a prison as a social worker. One of the luxuries of COVID-19 has been there's not been a lot going on, so I have some free time and some flexibility with my schedule. And I'll just do push-ups, usually with the span of 10 minutes between each few sets. So I'll space that out throughout the day. I'll use my lunch period to do more sets, and then I come home, pick the kids up, do whatever dads do, cook supper, run them off to basketball or whatnot, and I just constantly weave them in. So then typically in the evening, I'll have about 1,500 to 1,000 left to do. And that's a pretty manageable amount of push-ups at this point. And I'll just knock those out watching the news or preparing for the next day.
No, that's cool. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, I mean, it seems straightforward, but so in the morning, in those couple hours that you try to set aside, and
Mhm.
you're knocking them out in sets of 30, 35, listening to your body, right? And kind of adjust day to day. Do you break it down into like a number per minute, or I do a set of 30 and then I rest a certain amount of time in between? How do
So
you
what I
space it?
do is, so I have a interval trainer timer that goes off every 5 minutes. So when that alarm goes off, I'll do a set of 30, 35, I'll rest, do another set of 30, 35, and then I'll do another set. And then by the time those 3 sets are done, I'll have about 2 to 3 minutes of rest period. And then the alarm goes back off, and then I just repeat it. So that's basically the routine that starts the morning. And that's really the foundation for each day. So if I can get those amount of push-ups done each morning, then I'm pretty set. It's, managing 3,000 push-ups the rest of the day is at this point for me, and I'm pretty humble. I'm not, not trying to be braggadocious or anything, but it's a very doable amount of push-ups. So it's very manageable.
Very
But I
manageable.
have to
Yeah.
get that 2,000 done in the morning.
Yeah, get the baseline in, which again, like as a metaphor for life, if you really start the day the right way, then so much of the rest of the day gets easier, right? If you dedicate that, get up early and do what you're meant to do. And so you're kind of doing like a 30 to 35 per minute for 3 minutes or so, rest 2 minutes, and then repeat. And then I love what you're doing during the day, right? So much of us have so much slack in our day, and we feel like, oh, I don't have time, but we've all got a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there to knock out a few push-ups.
I mean, honestly, I can knock out, 60 to 90 push-ups in probably a minute, minute and a half, So
Right.
when you think about it, like, it's really not, I mean, most of us spend that much time twiddling our hair, I mean,
Right.
so we can certainly work that in. But again, like, it's not about being motivated, because you can't be motivated to do this type of routine day in and day out. You have to really be driven. So I'm always keeping in mind why I'm doing it. It's to support the foundation, it's to honor those who serve, and to be an example for my children. So those 3 things continually flow through me, and put in perspective what it is that why I'm doing it. Because like anybody, I don't want to do it every day. I don't want to get up. I want to sleep in, or I want to lay on the couch and watch television and not have to do push-ups. So you have to really combat that. But I think having things that are greater than me, why I'm doing it, really helps me kind of stay focused and stay committed in controlling that moment, because that's really all I have is that moment, and my ability to control that is all I can really do. And then I'll work on the next moment when I get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Controlling your thoughts and being present. I can definitely relate. I've had people tell me, "Oh, your son's crushing it. I see him on Instagram doing the burpees." It's like, well, that's how it looks from the outside, right? But you don't see you don't see the tug of war that's going on between mama and getting him to do the burpees, right? So just like nobody sees what's going on in Nate's head, is like some
No.
days it's flowing and some days it's probably a struggle.
Well, and it is. I mean, like, I get up, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking out my window and I know my neighbors are nestled in their beds sleeping.
Right.
It's Wisconsin. So it's 20 below some days, it's freezing. And it's challenging, but it's no more challenging than I make it, and I know that I'm what I'm doing is important for those that serve our country and serve our communities and for my kids. So it really keeps me humble and keeps me on point where I need to be.
Yeah. Do you have a certain routine around that, or a visualization approach that you use as you're going into the morning or even during the day to keep the service mission in mind and those heroes in mind?
Yeah, I do. I think of the police officers in my community that are patrolling the streets while I'm sleeping, while I'm awake, and their willingness to be there in the moment's notice. And again, I just, being a father myself, and this foundation, obviously, it pays off the homes of fallen first responders that leave behind a family with young children. And I think to myself with my kids, like if something were to happen to me, these are the people that would come and hopefully protect my children, or put themselves in between themselves and danger. And so I really do, I kind of visualize what first responders, the impact that they make on our community, what impact they've made on my life in 45 years, and then what I hope for my kids. I want to instill in them the appreciation of those that serve and have them. I mean, my kids are similar in ages to your kids. They're 13, 12, and 10. And at that age, their go-to probably isn't to think of somebody else or how somebody's life impacts them. I mean, they're young and they're still trying to figure things out. But I want them to recognize that a lot of the life that they have and the ability to live the life that they have is impacted by people that they've never met. And that kind of blanket of security that is, kind of cast over them as a result of the sacrifice and the commitment of our first responders. So, I really I want them to, to be aware of that, and they are, and to be appreciative of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom and safety that comes with sacrifice and effort that we don't directly see every day. And as you said, right, a young person's kind of focused in their own world, so it's great to
As they should.
as they
Their
should,
job's to
right?
be a kid.
Let them
Their
be
job's to
kids,
be a kid.
have fun. But
Yeah.
is their job to do any push-ups too, as far as leading by example? Are they joining you on the journey at all?
Yeah, they've hammered a few out with me. So, I
Okay.
mean, every now and then I was telling somebody recently, like, they're not terribly impressed with it anymore because they see it every day. So it's nothing to, oh gosh, dad's doing more push-ups. So shocker. But no, but I think they know. We talk a lot. We use the push-ups as a metaphor for life. We talk about setting big goals, what it looks like to work towards goals that seem impossible when you break them down into manageable chunks, and kind of what I can do. I mean, so if you tell somebody like, yeah, I'm going to do 4,000 push-ups a day, like a lot of people can't conceptualize that and see what that means. And kind of the analogy I always use, like, so somebody who's never ran, the thought of running a mile, I mean, that's a pretty long distance, and that's, it's a challenging distance. But for somebody who's an ultra marathoner, that same distance is very manageable. So, I use, kind of analogies like that to kind of break down and make sense of what that means. And then with my kids, I'll often talk about whatever problems that, they're having, whether it be in school or in basketball, or how they look at kind of, working through those. We use the push-ups as, kind of that metaphor of like, well, this is what, like if you look at it this way and you tell yourself you can't do it, you're never going to be able to do it, but if you're willing to endure and work hard, maybe at the end, something good will happen or something great will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one of these memories of my son a few years ago, and he loves to jump on the bike, and we'll do a little bike ride around the neighborhood. But we had been working out and talked about breaking things down like that. We were talking about micro goals.
Yeah.
And so we live on a hill. So the very last part of any bike ride has to come back up a pretty significant hill. It was a pretty big hill for him when he was a little, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And we had talked about that concept. And you know how it is as a dad, right? You have no idea like how much sinks in or goes right over their head, or you get like, oh yeah, thanks dad, look at what I did on Xbox or whatever, right?
Right.
And we
Right.
were cruising back up the hill on the bike that day, and it was the first time he had made it all the way back up the hill without stopping. I said, great job, buddy. Like you made it. And he goes, well, I just, I did what you said. Every driveway was a micro goal. I made it past the next house. I made it past the next house. Like, holy cow, it
Yeah,
did sink in.
how true is that? I mean, and that's true whether you're biking up a hill, whether you're studying for a test, or whether you're, trying to do 4,000 push-ups. Sorry, my daughter's running through here.
Your daughter, your PR agent.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's so true because everything that we look at, if we can break it down into manageable chunks, things are possible. And you add that consistency, that dedication, and that commitment, add that up, hopefully something good will happen. Something great might happen.
Something great might happen. What do you have anything you like to say to yourself, like a mantra, something you repeat over and over again when you're in the thick of a set or when things get tough?
The thing that I always think about is that I'm in my living room in a pair of shorts or my pajamas doing push-ups. And so any difficulty or hard time or challenges that I'm encountering is nothing in comparison to what the families of our fallen first responders go through. So, you know, they would trade, my pain and suffering any day to have their mom or dad back. So I always try to keep it in perspective that what I'm going through is pretty simple in comparison to what real discomfort is, what real difficulty is, what real pain is. And I continually think about that when I find myself feeling sorry for myself or kind of wrestling with some injury, because I've had some injuries associated with this, and just how to kind of persevere, work through it, and keep it in perspective. I'm big on perspective, like looking at what have other people done, how have they, endured things much more challenging, much more difficult than anything that I'm attempting. And if they can find the strength and perseverance, I'm quite certain I can get on the floor and do some push-ups on the carpet.
Yeah, well said. I saw something posted by somebody the other day saying along the lines of you have survived 100% of all the stuff, all the hard stuff life has thrown at you so far. It's like, well,
Correct.
yeah, I guess by definition, that's exactly correct, right?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And along those same lines, one of the things that I think about, I mean, I'm 45 years old, and I think to myself, for 45 years, first responders have been minutes away from assisting me at any point that whole course of my life. And I think to myself, I mean, thank God I've not dealt with any significant injuries or, any trauma associated with any criminal activity. But I mean, the reality that somebody's been there could be there within minutes every day of my life is pretty humbling when I think about what I'm doing and why it's so important for me to say thank you and hopefully encourage other people to say thank you and be appreciative of that.
Yeah, 100%. I had a chance a little bit more than a year ago, early last year, to be invited on a ride along, 24-hour ride along with a local fire crew. And I had no idea really what these guys did on a daily basis. Of course, I thought fires, and I see them on the side of the road for car accidents and, like EMS calls. But the fact of what they dealt with over and over and over again, just for the health and safety of the community, was humbling. It was amazing.
It's very humbling. And one of the things that I talk to my kids about, and I talk to anybody who gives me the opportunity or the platform, it doesn't cost anything to say thank you. I mean, a lot of times people think like, well, what could I do? How could I, make a difference in somebody's life or, make an impact? And, it's nothing more complex than, two words, thank you.
Thank you.
And so it's one of the things that I do every opportunity I can is when we're going down to Florida here in a couple days, and I'm hoping to meet with the Palm Beach Police Department. And for that very reason, just to say, thank you. I mean, thank you for what you do, in hopes it gives me the opportunity to have a nice spring break with my kids and give me that, that layer of protection that they always provide. So, but just a
Right.
simple thank you.
And there's a lot of science, not only for the actual effect of the thank you on somebody else that deserves it, but just having a gratitude practice.
Absolutely.
Not only are you knocking out some exercise first thing in the morning, but it's in dedication to this greater cause, but you're doing that with this gratitude for the service they're providing.
Absolutely.
One of the things I've really been exploring over the last 6, 7 years, and in particular, even recently, some breakthroughs I've had around breath in movement and athletics, synchronizing breath, different breath techniques, breath empowerment. Is breath a thing for you? Is it a focal point? Is it something that you've worked into this endeavor?
So my breathing, my breath.
Your breath?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that we can certainly manipulate within ourselves to kind of regain a sense of control and to center ourselves. I mean, anytime we find ourselves, worked up or exhausted, our breath is obviously very shallow. And it's something that we can manipulate back to kind of keep ourselves calm. And I think with that ability and recognizing that ability, it helps calm the mind. And we can have some clarity when we find ourselves maybe stressed or in a situation where we're having some of those negative thoughts, which we all do, of self-doubt and whether something's possible or not. It certainly provides a platform for us to think more clearly and put things in perspective
Right.
with our breath. I mean, the thing about push-ups, I mean, it's not a cardiovascular, it's not like running a marathon or something where you find yourself, a little more taxed respiratory wise, but it plays a crucial role in what I do, and I think anybody who's trying to regain that center and that focus when they have a long endeavor ahead of them.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's centering you, or I mean, even just with the movement, and maybe this is so simple that everybody does it, but I never even thought about timing my breath with my movements until even maybe a year ago. Whether it's a squat or a push up or something that's a in out sort of method, is maybe it's inhale on the down, exhale on the up, or vice versa, or whatever works for you, or whether you're doing something as a weighted exercise or a body weight
Correct.
only exercise. And then
I probably wake my kids up a few times with my exhales because some of them are pretty loud. But hopefully not too bad, but it is certainly an aspect of what I do.
yeah, nice. How about just looking ahead to June 13th? Do you do any visualization around that? Do you contemplate what this looks like, what you feel like, what it looks like at the end of 1.5 million plus push-ups, and how that looks for tunnels of towers and all the things that go with it?
Sure. Yes and no. I mean, that's a tricky question because I do think about it, obviously. I mean, that it is something that, that's why I'm in part why I'm doing what I do. I really try to focus the bulk of my attention on the day and what lies tomorrow. And I find myself, if I start drifting out too far, I don't have control over that. And I don't necessarily know what next week looks like or the following week looks like. So I spend the bulk of my attention with what I can control and the here and now and the kind of what lies ahead for today and tomorrow. As far as the June 13th, yeah, I have thought about it, and I anticipate I will, if successful, I'll be proud of the accomplishment, and I'll wake up June 14th, and I'll move on to the next thing, and look for another opportunity to support our first responders because anything that I'm doing it's really I try to look at it. It's not about Nate. I mean, it's about my kids. It's about those that serve, and so the conclusion of this goal will create another opportunity for me to move forward and do something next for those that serve.
Yeah, I will definitely look forward to that. One more, just kind of in the physical realm, and you kind of mentioned it, right? Is injuries, or we all get creaks and sore spots and ligaments and all that kind of stuff. Do you have a particular routine around this, whether it's recovery or mobility, those kind of things?
Well, through this endeavor, I discovered the rhomboid muscle, which I didn't even know existed. And those are the little stabilizer muscles between your shoulder blades that scream when they are overworked and not prepared. So I've had some issues with my rhomboids probably 3 times this whole endeavor, most recently being last week, Friday. And so I have to look at the big picture when it comes to injuries because I find myself if I try to tax myself too much, I run the risk of the whole thing being, thrown off and not being able to recover. So I'll take days off when I need to take days off. And it's really just about being in tune with my body and kind of listening. I mean, at this point, I'm 8 months into it, 9 months into it, whatever it is. I got a pretty good gauge on, you know, normal strain. And when something new pops up, then I need to take note of that and kind of assess what that is and make sure that I give it the proper amount of rest in order for that to not to be a, you know, kind of a nagging injury that I maybe wouldn't be able to work through. So, but obviously I have to work through some physical discomfort and, but that's basically kind of how I approach that.
Do you, I was just going to ask if you do any particular, rolling, stretching, and for anybody who's got the video version of this up, I'm holding up an orange lacrosse ball. Do you do anything like that, like point massage?
So so in 2019, I did a million push-ups, and I was able to kind of successfully do that with training. I didn't have any issue. This one's been a lot more challenging. So going into the challenge, I was as tight as a snare drum. Now I stretch daily, and I found it to be helpful for me. And I've never been a stretcher. I've been an athlete for many years, and it's never something that I was accustomed to or practiced. But I get up every morning and I do stretching. I have a roller, a ball like you just showed there, the lacrosse ball, I think it is. And I will do probably about 15 minutes of just stretching and rolling of my back because it seems to be my back is the primary source of my problems when they do pop up.
That's I've kind of found the same thing doing a bunch of push-ups and burpees and stuff like that. For some reason, maybe the pecs and everything get tight and pull the back, but something like a lacrosse ball or a golf ball or whatever it is, laying on
Right.
that thing like around your shoulder blades and just working it around.
Feels good.
Brutal,
It
brutal,
is
but
brutal, but it hurts. I mean, your body, I don't think your body's meant to do that amount of repetitions every day. So you have to take care of it and listen to it. And I mean, at 45, you know, I don't have the body of a 25-year-old that recovers quickly and maybe
right.
doesn't necessarily need that attention. So just being older, I have to pay attention to that stuff if I want to make this goal a possibility.
Yeah. Have you on your own or through Tunnels to Towers or other sort of, formal or informal sponsors, have you, in terms of, diet, supplement, anti-inflammatory, anything like that you've added in to support this?
Nothing. I try to eat healthy. I try to eat lean meats, lots of fruits and vegetables. I drink a lot of water. I probably eat too much ice cream, but that's my one my one vice. And
You're in dairy country up there.
well, yeah. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin, so you know, I got to have a good chunk of cheese and
Maybe
some
a
ice
couple
cream.
fried cheese curds, maybe.
Oh yeah. So I try. My diet is I would say, you know, pretty well. Nothing that I foul daily, but I try to eat natural and clean as best I can. So, but I don't take any supplements and I don't do anything I don't have any like medications or anything that I take on a routine basis. Every now and then I'll take some ibuprofen if I'm stiff, and hopefully that kind of gets me through that day.
Okay. Yeah, you sound a little bit like I've got a buddy in Kansas. Must be that mid country, Midwestern thing is like, you don't need to stretch. We don't need yoga. We don't need any of that crap.
We're
Once in a
farm
while,
boys here. I mean, come on.
little
I grew up on
ibuprofen.
the farm milking cows,
Exactly.
so yeah.
Exactly. Farm boys. I'm out here, looking for everything I can hack. For me, so I'm 49, I'm almost 50. And
Mhm.
I think CBD has been like one of the game changers for me as obviously the non psychoactive component
Yeah.
of this product, right? But as a natural anti-inflammatory, that's been a huge one for me.
And I think moving forward, just depending on how my body responds to this challenge and what lies ahead, I mean, you have to be open and incorporate what works and be flexible with age and father time. You know, our bodies change. So
100%. So
yeah.
what's your routine look like in terms of publicizing the effort? Are you traveling around for this at all? Are you doing events with Tunnels to Towers, or it's just kind of as you travel, like on spring break with the family?
Yeah, so I mean, COVID has been kind of a detriment to things. I mean, a lot of departments don't necessarily want visitors. So we've done some traveling, and like I said, we're going down to Florida here on Friday, and I'm hopeful. I've been in contact with the Palm Beach Police Department, and there's some other contacts within the fire department in that area. So I'm hopeful to make a stop in there and say thanks and kind of share about the foundation. So in June, hopefully, if I, you know, earn my way to this record, we'll be in New York. That's my plan, and I hope to finish it off in New York, maybe under the Statue of Liberty, and or at least with the Statue of Liberty as a backdrop. And that would be pretty meaningful to me, if in my family, if that's what God has planned for us.
Yeah, that would be an amazing way to finish it off. Do you have a particular fundraising goal, and where are you at right now?
So the fundraising, yeah. So we have a fundraising goal through the foundation, and I mean, my goal was 1.5 million push-ups for 1.5 million dollars,
Mhm.
and we're probably at about $40,000 right now. But I've always said, the answer is always no if you don't ask,
Right.
and you got to set big goals. So I'm hopeful that maybe as this comes near a conclusion and gains a little more attention, that people would be inclined to go to Tunnel to Towers and learn about that foundation and maybe make a donation in with the push through campaign. The other nice thing is, I mean, they do a lot more obviously than just the homes for the fallen first responders. They support our military within the Gold Star families, and they'll build smart homes for our catastrophically injured first responders and vets. So this year is the 20th year of the foundation. It came about on 9/11 when Steve Stiller was a New York City firefighter. He ran to the towers and gave his life and sacrifice to trying to rescue people. And Frank Stiller, the chairman of Telling It to Towers, started this foundation in his honor. So this year marks the 20th anniversary of the foundation, and they are hopeful to pay off 250 homes this year of our nation's heroes.
Wow, that's amazing. 250 homes this year. Super
So
cool. So where's the best place to get information about Tunnels to Towers? What's their website or contact?
yeah, the best way to get information is go right to their website, which is tunneltotowers.org. And you can learn all about the programs that they offer. They have bios of all the first responders and military heroes that they've supported. And they do, I mean, again, they do a lot of wonderful things in support of those who serve.
And is your fundraiser on their website, or do we go somewhere else for the push through fundraiser?
Go right to their website. So
Awesome.
it's really nice. I'll just do the push-ups, and they handle all the financial aspects of it. So that's nice. So, and you can make a donation right on their website.
Awesome. Yeah, all you got to do is just put in the work.
So all I got to do, I got to sit here in my pajamas and do push-ups. So
And the rest of us just got to throw some dollars in. Are you looking for other people to rally around you, over the period of time as well, doing push-ups, playing along at home, kind of putting the work in along with the donations?
if they want, I mean, what would be more meaningful to me is if they looked for opportunities to say thank you to those who serve in their community or those that serve our nation. And so, I mean, if you want to do a few push-ups, absolutely. I mean, it's always nice to have to know people are, setting some goals, having some good routines of physical health. But to me, it's more important to recognize that to honor what I'm doing, all you got to do is say thank you to that police officer, that firefighter in your community. I think that's much more meaningful.
Nice. Yeah, I'll hook you up off air with a couple people I can think of that may have some parallel efforts going. There's one veteran that I know there on the East Coast who has a whole bunch of people doing push-ups live every Saturday or Sunday morning on Facebook and Instagram. Be a great way to get some of this word out on what you're doing, and of course, as you say, very humbly, even more importantly, the mission and the cause and the service of Tunnels to Towers. So really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit, Nate. I'm humbled by what you're doing. I know you just kind of say, well, I do the work, but you're doing amazing work. It's such a great cause. I loved hearing about what you're doing with Tunnels to Towers. So I know you like to encourage people to say thank you, and you're out there saying thank you, but let me please thank you for your effort and what you're bringing attention to. Anything else that people should know or that you want to turn people's attention to as we wrap up?
No, to me, I just think it costs nothing. Like, it costs absolutely nothing to say thank you and to recognize the impact that those who serve, the impact that they have on our lives. Not always can be felt. We don't always see it. We don't always experience it firsthand, but it's certainly there. And I think when you couple with whatever you do in life with a recognition that somebody is 2 minutes away from putting their life in between you and danger, it's pretty humbling. So I just think it's so easy to say thank you, and it's so easy to kind of overlook that if we're not necessarily mindful of it. So if anybody takes anything away from this, it's just the appreciation of the sacrifice of those first responders in our community.
Amazing. All right. Well, that's an amazing way to wrap it up. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing as a father and a leader and for our community. So Nate, thank you again so much for your time. We'll get show notes out for this one with links to your cause, and we'll keep following along, and we'll be behind you. So you may not see us, but we're there with you every day from here to June 13th.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you again to Nate Carroll. Really enjoyed the talk. Wish Nate all the best on his continued endeavors, pursuit, daily grind, keeping strong physically, mentally, injury-free. And he's got the mission always in mind. The mission as a father and the mission in service to Tunnel to Tower. So go find the show notes to this episode at manofmastery.com/077 for episode 77, manofmastery.com/077. You can find all of Nate's links. You'll find his social media, his YouTube channel where he mentions his Star Spangled Banner tribute to fallen heroes. And of course, most importantly for this campaign, links to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and Nate's GoFundMe directly to support his cause. So let's support Nate, let's support the cause, and cheer him on as he heads towards June and his big goal. And let's use this as our own inspiration as we get back out there this week. Set those big hairy goals, break them down, chunk them down one day, one step, one rep, one breath at a time, and keep the mission, your purpose in mind as you do it. All right, so get out there, get after it, and we'll see you on the next one.